roughly for last 1 decade maybe, we come to know about, it's been in discussion in popular media and also academia, the Angus Madison chart of economical chart.
Yes.
And as you explained that all our business families kind of trace their values, the ethos 5,000 years back, continuous economic, and it's indeed unique that not only an economy based but economy first civilization India was been. So you identified 11 major economic factors that sustained Bharat's long economic dominance, and also the dharmic factor maybe. Nothing happened in India without dharma. I mean dharma in real sense.
Yeah.
So how I will ask you, what were some of the key economic principles that once powered Bharat?
Yeah. So let me first make a small difference between economic principle and economic factor. So let me first get into economic principles first. So economic principle, every civilization, and I possibly we kind of got around a little bit onto the larger picture. I didn't come onto the blip theory, so I'll explain the blip theory also here. See, every civilization, for it to exist cohesively as a civilization cohesion as it's called, has a reason. It's called an organizing principle. For instance, you look at a scenario where the Persian civilization existed because the organizing principle was conquer territory, convert them into satrapies and get tribute. Now the same organizing principle is very different for classical Rome. Classical Rome is invade same territories but don't convert them into satrapies. My relationship does not end in the organizing principle by only getting satrapies. The organizing principle of Persian Empire was capture territory, make it satrapy, get tribute. Three things, it is over. While the classical the Roman civilization as it called, was capture territories, so far the same as Persia. But from here onwards, convert it into a Roman territory, Roman laws, Roman etiquette, Roman ideals, what it means to be a Roman games, and so on and so forth. Roman culture, you could say in some ways. Shift that to the advancement of what is basically called Christian Rome, which came after, which basically took over around the 5th century, the imperial Roman Empire.
Eastern Roman Empire.
Later 5th century AD, the spread of Christianity. The organizing principle changes one single line fundamentally. What did it mean to be a member of the Roman Empire, Imperial Roman Empire? I feel proud to be a Roman. Simple language. While in the Christian Empire, for you to be a member of the Christian Empire as a citizen, you have to be a Christian. The fundamental organizing principle changed. When the Persian Empire collapses, the Persians are defeated. There is no Persia left in any of the satrapies. It never existed. When the Roman Empire collapses and comes here, you still have something Roman left over.
Also,
because the Roman law.
In China, the Huns, the Qin, Ming dynasties, all are bloody history.
Yeah, but
they like to thumb down.
But their thing was unification of China, one China. Even today, the same thing happened then, one China. So the organizing principle is this is one land should belong to one emperor. In comparison to this, you had India, which was not politically connected at all. It was economically integrated. So it was a common economic civilizational values which ran. So what were the principles which ran India compared to the principles which ran these other three? China, consolidation into one China. Here satrapies, here Roman law, and here you look at Christianity broadly without getting into nuances. In India, the organizing principle was first that enterprise will be completely decentralized. All activity, economic activity, which basically means production, trade, transport, finance, primarily these four, will be embedded into specific communities. Enterprise will always take precedence over conflict. And should a king really try to win over larger kingdoms, it will not be at the cost of upsetting the economy. So the entire thing was not to destroy somebody's economy, it was basically to get more of it. So you had the Sakas and Satavahanas going to battle in Nasik to capture the trade route coming in from Peshawar via Mathura to Ujjain and then down into Bharuch and then selling the silk and various products to Rome. Now, Sakas and Satavahanas both met at Nasik, fought battles to control that critical corridor. It changed hands. The Bharuch port also changed hands. It was largely the Sakas, but Satavahanas also at one point of time captured the Bharuch port, which was critical. So, Bharuch to Nasik. Both, when they captured, retained the monasteries and the temples built by the previous king and built more. But they never ever looked at conflict getting out. Now you asked about the second point of the principles. So let's look at the principles. Let's look at the factors. Let me give you one or two factors very interesting. Distributed manufacturing, there is no, except for Phoenicians to a very limited extent, there is no other, Phoenicians also in ivory, there is no other comparable example of distributed manufacturing in last 5,000 years. Now, what does it mean? Till, of course, the modern age. When we did excavations in Pattanam, which is basically supposed to be the Muziris port, much touted, Muchira Pattanam. Pattanam is today's name. And Arikamedu, which is in Tamil Nadu, and Pattanam being in Kerala. The excavations showed various beads and stuff like carnelian, agate and various others in finished, semi-finished and partly finished forms. And workshops existing there. What does it mean? None of these materials are present in Tamil Nadu or Kerala. None of these skills exist then and today. They exist largely in the Khambat Gujarat region. And for even in the Indus Valley, it was largely this part only, the Gujarat Kutch part. And of course, Indus also did that, but when the Indus collapsed, if you look at the north where some of the settlements came in, these skills didn't get carried forward, it got carried forward here because the carnelian is found in Khambat. It clearly meant that you had created a manufacturing where you were taking part of the material and shipping it there. And then when the sailors landed for 2 months, so distributed, one part here, one part here. Similarly, in the Red Sea ports excavations, you get various unfinished materials there. Which means you are manufacturing in two places, which is happening in Dubai today incidentally. In Dubai gems and jewelry today, the concept has changed because it's called the time to market. Customer tastes are changing fast. So you create an unfinished or a partly finished product, and then depending on the design, it's also called fast fashion. You change it at the last minute there. So you have distributed manufacturing in different places. Indus Valley was also doing it in Dilmun. You're shipping part of it in Dilmun, you have found workshops of unfinished articles coming from somewhere and then manufactured and then sent to Mesopotamia. So look at the sophistication of that chain. Look at Bernike. People don't realize the sophistication of what happened. Bernike is the other end of Egypt. Now, it was created in the 4th century BC. In the lowest layer, you find pottery coming in from Kalinga, from Bang, and from Vidisha. Now, in Sokotra, there is a man written in graffiti, typical Indian. XYZ from Vidisha was here. It is written in the 2nd century AD. So, in the earliest Bernike layer of 4th century BC, which is incidentally 2,200 kilometers away, and can only be reached with 3-mast ships, which means only 3-mast ships were flying, blue sea, deep sea trade. Now, in 4th century BC, you didn't open a port and suddenly one day somebody tried to leave from India. It means our economic principles of long distance trade factors were existing then. Our distributed manufacturing was existing then. Our temple nodal embedded finance was existing then. So these are the different economic factors which existed then. And so if you take together a blueprint, you have a scenario of about 11 different things which came together to make an economy happen. Incidentally, these 11 are the same which modern economies employ. Now, how could it be that a civilization 2000 years back was doing it in a real sense, which I proved with case studies? It didn't just happen. It happened because there was a planning behind it.